This is my Joysway Dragonfly. I mean, it's kind of a classic RC airplane. You can fly this one on more or less any surface, but I think that water flying is the most fun. So let's go outside and do another flight on this Dragonfly. So as you noticed then during takeoff, it is kind of sticky on water, but you just have to keep on pressing the throttle and just pull some elevator eventually to get this one up in the air. It's a really calm day today, and then you can hear that this prop and this motor on this plane is really noisy, which is kind of the least likable thing about this RC airplane. I'm flying this on a 3S 2200 milliamp battery. Does balance really well. Features a crazy roll rate if you just pull full ailerons, so it usually just takes a bit of practice just to tone it down.
Time remaining 4 minutes.
Flies really straight also. With this delta wing, it is more or less just like flying an EDF RC airplane then. Doesn't feature any flaps, but I think you can do really nice touch and goes. Just lower throttle, let it drop, and then kind of like a splash and go. And apart then from kind of the noisy RC airplane, it also a little bit stealth, because in certain angles it just kind of disappears. So just like there, I kind of misjudged the height then. But thanks to this design, I think it will survive some really unsmooth water splashing. It's a nice plane just to cruise around a meter or so above the water surface. And if you really get the right angle, it's really smooth when you do a splash and go. As you can see, I've modified mine then, so I do have the stripes underneath the plane, just because I think it's stupid to have any RC airplane that is more or less only white on one side. I mean, today I have a blue sky, but on another day it might be just gray, and then it will. It's difficult just to see the plane in some angles, and if you have white, it might just disappear and you might crash it. So stripes, they do save planes. A really nice touchdown. So you can certainly do a kind of a high alpha thing then when you're about to land, and it will touch down very smooth. And it's such a privilege just to have a lake, almost like a kind of a mirror finish with no wind, and it's really enjoyable. But even in a bit of wind, I think that this Dragonfly then cuts through the wind really well. And speaking about wind and AS3X, because I do have a Spectrum receiver with gyro inside of mine, I think that gyro, you really should do kind of a 0.7 times gain, so it's less than 1, otherwise you will have some sort of oscillation. So it might be best just to fly without AS3X at all, and then it might behave a little bit better also. So gyro is really not necessary for this plane. I think it's a sweet look. So the only thing then, I wish that this was a little bit more quiet. Anyway, 3 or 4 or 5 kind of splashes then before you're up again. It turns really well because it is a true 4-channel plane then, so you have both rudder, elevator and ailerons, and pair that with throttle, you have 4 channels. So I have set up mine then to do flaperons, but I haven't really had the need to use them. So maybe then for a future occasion. When you have the right angle, as you can see, it is super smooth and just barely touching the surface. So timer is almost up. I think you can run this one for a long time. But just reduce the timer to have not too long video then for the flight. So when you have some speed, I think it runs really smooth on water. It's just when you're about to take off, then it's a little bit sticky. Yeah, and I'm done. Really nice plane to fly, this Dragonfly. I mean, it's not a real water rudder, but it does maneuver pretty well even on water, I would say. I'm having a really good time with this Dragonfly every time I bring it to fly. I think it is more or less just a fantastic plane, and as a matter of fact, I think it's kind of a poor man's EDF, or kind of almost the only EDF water plane there is, except there's no EDF, there's just a prop. And speaking about the prop and sound, I think that this small prop then has a kind of a annoying sound, so it's not my favorite. I don't know if I can do anything about it, but still it is really annoying. On mine then I also improved visibility and also longevity by just having tape underneath, and these tape marks then just makes this one so easy to orientate, because you can imagine if you have an all white RCR plane and you have kind of a cloudy sky, this plane will just disappear. And also if you just look at it like this, then it is really kind of a stealth design. So in certain angles the plane more or less just disappears, and I have to just count on that I really have a good orientation of the RCR plane just by my muscle memory. But just how it flies and how fun it is to do touch and goes on the water. And you can also fly really slow with this RCR plane. So I've set up mine to do flaperons, but I haven't really had the need to do flaperons. So that is something I might experiment a little bit more further on. But I think it just glides really well. And if you, if you kind of practice more, I think you can do kind of a cobra landings where you more or less go quite a high alpha. You pull it up and then just let go, and it will just bleed off all speed and go down. So that's something I will try more. It rolls super fast, this RCR plane, so it might be kind of the fastest rolling RCR plane I've ever tried. Even compared to something like the E-flite Extra 300, it is just crazy how you can really roll this plane. So usually I take it really easy. And all the control surfaces, I think it just works fine. An advantage of this design also, of course, is that the prop is very much protected, because, from these sides and from the front, you cannot really break the prop. The only way to break the prop, I guess, is if you flip the plane upside down. But even then, you don't have much area where this prop can actually break. So it's a really nice design. I have this front hatch then, and a really long way to put the battery. I fly mine then on a 3S2200, which I think works just fine. I have a Spectrum speed controller inside, so I use the IC3 connector. Overall, I have this rear hatch also, so in this plane then I have an AR637T receiver, great access to the receiver, and the linkages are really visible, so if you want to adjust something, it's really easy. So the only negative then when it comes to assemble is you have to glue everything in place, and then it is what it is. But it's also quite nimble and small plane, and you should have no problem just to fit this one in any car. So just a great and fun and interesting RCR plane to own, this Joysway Dragonfly.